Well, 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 here we are again under some less than favorable circumstances to have a discussion. But, my home country, our home country, the United States, is the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it?
Woohoo! Oh, yep. I've been fielding questions for the last 2 weeks. Mm-hmm.
Some people, let's do this. Some people might not remember who you are. Tell them who you are, where you're from. Give them like the nickel tour.
All right. So my name is Vanetta. I'm from Alabama. I live in Fortaleza, and I've been here for like the last 10 years. And I've spoken with you before. I've been on some of your broadcasts several times before, and I've been a hermit since COVID started. And I have a channel called Fortaleza in English, but she has been on the back burner since COVID started. But we're gonna get back into the groove.
I want to say thanks for showing up to Man of Tomorrow and to Brother Jeffrey, and of course, BK, who's always reminding everybody, like, share, and subscribe. This channel has grown immensely, and it's done it largely because it's not because we get pumped by the algorithm. It's because people watching this share this on their Facebook and on their Twitter and on their social media, and I'm so proud of that. We've been able to. We talk about three big things here. We talk about world travel, not just my life in São Paulo, Brazil, or your life in Fortaleza, correct? Or your life in Fortaleza, Brazil. We talk about my favorite issue, money, not just cryptocurrency. And we also talk about world travel.
Yeah.
But you said you've been fielding questions for the past few weeks now. And I wanted to, you and I had a brief discussion. And I said, there's some of both of our thoughts that we needed to really get out there and share with some people about. Well, I'm going to give everybody my side of it. For the people watching who don't know, one of the businesses that I run in Brazil, I have an expat relocation services company. Okay. Well, what does that do? Easy. I help people who want to come to live in Brazil, go through all the paperwork necessary, all the things to get everything from a social security number to a bank card. And that's a business that ramped up slowly over time. And once we hit, what day was it when they invaded the capital? What day was that?
I can't even remember the exact day. Like sometime last week. I just feel like I'm just seeing a steady stream of stuff coming out about it now.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I have been getting this torrent of business from people. Now, here's what makes it interesting. First, let me show everybody. You can add me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where I put, of course, my resume, but that's not the important part. It gives everybody a very clear understanding of what we do in my company. And this is great, and this is all fun and well and good, and pause it and add me on LinkedIn. But the important part I tell people, when you are making the decision, because I'm not going to just, he said it was the 6th. Jeffrey said it was the 6th. That was about 10 days ago. Now, here's the thing. When you do want to find somebody to help you leave the United States, find someone who is qualified with history, and more importantly, find someone, I don't care where you're going, even if it's here, check me out. Do your due diligence. Find out whether
one of them. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should not have interrupted. You just clicked something. Yeah, like one of the mistakes, because I think that both of us have watched a lot of people make rookie errors, that are impossible not to make if you're not a skilled traveler or if you don't go with a plan. And yeah, like in a place like Brazil, I think our video was called "Brazil is not for beginners," and right. I made a video because of that, because there are so many little things about this place, little peculiarities that are not included on an internet, and situations can change moment to moment, and you have to have people that kind of know how to change with those situations in order to get the result. And that's the part that trips people up a lot.
And I tell people, before they become my client, it's okay to read my references. It's okay to contact the people who have publicly come out and said, I'm good at what I do. That's what LinkedIn does. It gives you a public referendum on who someone is professionally. So I say this, if anybody needs what I do, feel free to email me, feel free to contact me here. But I have had a torrent. Oh, wow, we got a couple cool people in. I want to say thanks to everybody who showed up. Zaki said, oh, here we go. The USA will be an absolute disaster in 3 generations. Mark my words, our culture will trash. People don't care. Only thing holding it together. Okay, we're going to come back to this. But listen, when you say our culture, I'd like, before I come back, Zaki, I want you to give me a very clear iteration. When you say our culture, I need you to tell me exactly what you mean. Brother Nathan said, thank you for the endorsement. Thank you. Yeah, and Brother Nathan Francis is somebody who's been itching to get out of the United States for a while, and they keep pulling him back in. Well,
but that's a real phenomenon, though. Like, that is a very real phenomenon in Alabama, or I would say in the South. You know, like, we have this weird spirituality down there that's a little bit Jesus, but a little bit voodoo. And we have this saying that when you're starting to grow in life, Satan will try to get in your way and pull you back. So you must be single-minded, because anytime you try to grow, it's like there are these hidden forces that throw these things in your way, obstacles in your way that you have to overcome. And then one day you wake up and you're released from the obstacles. We call it Satan in Alabama, Satan trying to get in your way. I know y'all don't do that in New York.
Well, here's where I am. I want to tell people just how bad it's gotten. And what led me to want to have this discussion is this. My business has generally been courted by a lot of Black Americans, African Americans, because they call themselves differently, and leftist people. Once we had, and I'm going to use this word very clearly, once we had that insurrection on the 6th, I have never had more phone calls from conservative white Americans in my life saying, I did some research. I'm comparing 3 or 4 different countries. You came up as the man to talk to about Brazil. I checked out a few of your references. Can you tell me what your pricing structure looks like and how you can help me? Why? Because here's what's happening. And this is where I really want to open this up. You have people on the extreme left, liberal, and the extreme right, conservative, running from America for the same reason.
Yes. I find it even difficult to talk to my people that I've known forever. I can't even have political discussions with them because they are so. I would say that both sides are pretty radicalized right now. Because anytime I criticize Biden, because for me he's the same as Donald Trump. You know, he's they're birds of a feather in a certain way. Although Donald Trump is an independent, and that's why he has been able to completely wreck the whole system single-handedly. But I would say that the system was needing the shakeup and the wrecking, even though I'm kind of glad, his destabilizing energy is moving away, but it's setting the stage for something that's necessary. But the interesting thing, though, is that there's this expectation that if you criticize Biden and if you point out that he has a very known history of casual racism towards Black people, and what has he done in 47 years except for attack us? You're seen as it's not even just a Trump supporter, but you're the devil. Huh?
They treat you like you're some kind of a traitor for not getting on the boat.
Yeah, you can't have intelligent political discussion. I'm not able to with any of my American friends. So I feel like that's something that's going on there right now.
And it's terrifying because here's what I'm getting from the people on the left. America has fallen. We're about to have this weak government that's going to emphasize all the wrong things, blah, 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 blah. Now, here's what I'm getting from my right-wing friends. We're getting a weak government that's going to influence all the wrong things. They're not going to stand up for what America should be. And they're telling me the same things. When I tell you I have some very, very right-wing Republican friends, I mean extreme cutting edge, bleeding edge And I have the same on the other side with my liberal friends. And they're giving me the same story as to why they want to leave. When did they become of the same mind? I mean, isn't that's terrifying to me?
Well, what's interesting?
Terrifying, yes.
I think what's interesting, because it's something that I've been looking at a lot as well. Because then the whole privacy thing and how does social media work and and algorithms and all of that comes into play. And what we can see is that, you know, people that use social media to get all of their information and who spend a lot of time on it, and we know that social media is created to become addictive so that you never want to get off of it. And they're manipulators. Facebook is a manipulator. Instagram, and they've even admitted this. You know, so I think that what happens is that echo chambers are created, and every single day, like little laboratory rats, people that are highly engaged in Instagram and Facebook and things like that, they are pricked every single day for several hours with these little things, these little stimulants, so that over time, if somebody says a word, and I would not believe this if I if I did not observe this several times. Like I could have spent the last hour criticizing Donald Trump, but the moment that somebody asks, "Are you happy that Joe Biden is our president?" and I'm like, "I don't like that dude either." Something like this weird rage. They call it being triggered. And I used to think that was a funny little word, but now, like I don't. There's no other word for it. But I don't even like to use the word triggered because of its pejorative connotations. But that's exactly what it was. And people on both sides experience this triggering based on like one little word or like whatever. And the response is not a reasonable response. That's the other thing, is that if I if I criticize Biden, what will happen is that there's this like there's this overroute emotional response, and sometimes the person will even start to almost cry, and then I will be accused of not living there anymore. So I don't know. I can't possibly know what's happening in America. It's insane, and I've seen this at least with four different people. So it makes me think that there's a script or something. It's crazy.
It's terrifying. I mean, and here's what's happening. The best and the brightest, the ones who have the option of considering maybe leaving, they're getting out. And this is on both sides of the equation. This is on Black folks, white folks, conservatives, liberals. They're saying, you know what? I think I'm just going to get out.
Sorry. Yep. Hold on a second. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, like that. I think that is exactly what is happening. I think a lot of people have been thinking about it for a while, but with all of this mess that's happening, they just finally decided to bite the bullet. But how successful do you think most people will be in getting out? Because that's the other thing, is I keep seeing the phenomenon of a lot of people wanting to get out, and I don't have a business like you that helps people relocate, but I do get people asking me questions about how to do it. And oh my God, when I tell people that, Brazil is not it's not like some of the other places. You really have to do some legwork here and some groundwork.
Yeah,
and do some research before coming to this type of place. Yeah.
Well, here's what ends up happening, though. A lot of people get information about this country from resources designed to help people have a great 2-week vacation.
Yep. Exactly.
Well, what if I want to start a business here? Do I need to register my business? Do I need to pay taxes? Yeah.
Yes.
Do I need to have my Go ahead.
In a weird way, and tell me if you have noticed this or not. And it could just be my experience, but because Brazil is the type of place where you cannot be very rigid. You have to. It's a country where you have to be extremely flexible, but in return for having to be flexible, it's very flexible with you as well. The people, though, that I see that have the worst times are people that have kind of Western inflexibility, and
Right.
because of that, I feel like a lot of Black people, once we get here, I feel like we have an advantage here because of our culture back home, because we have elements of that kind of flexibility at home, whereas others who don't have that same level of normal flexibility in their own lives, they suffer here a lot.
And
Have you
it's
seen that?
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 I've seen people who come
Mhm.
and they say, because here's the other thing. We're talking about on a normal day in Brazil, you have to have some flexibility in the way that you approach things. But right
Yep.
now, no government in the world is following their own rules because no one knows what the rules are. So what ends up happening is you go online and they'll say, oh, but this office said they were opening at 9 a.m. and now they're not opening until 11. And I had to do make an appointment on the internet, which I should have done last week. And they'll call me and say, hey, Watt, can you help me? And I'll say, well, what do you need? If it's a 30-second answer, sure. What do? I need to go to the Policia Federal to show them my work document. Okay, so let me get this right. When you have the opportunity to become my client and actually pay for this valuable information that you now need all of a sudden, because by the way, there are a lot of people out there who will tell you, oh, the stuff that YusefWateef does, anybody can go online and you can learn to do it yourself. I would agree. If you have a fluent knowledge of Brazilian Portuguese, or like I have, a bilingual staff, you understand the interworkings of how the different businesses work, you can absolutely do it on your own. But the people who hire me are hiring me because I save them their most valuable asset, which is time. But I get people all the time who will send me, I have had emails, 6 paragraphs long, describing everything they need. And I say, well, give me a call. Here's my number. And we talk. And they say, you do all that? And I say, yes. Well, can't you just tell me what to do and I do it? Well, I could, but that would be irresponsible. Because, oh, look, you got a fan.
Obrigada, a negra e poesia. Obrigada, querida.
But they always end up doing that whole, but can't you just give it all to me for free? Well, it took me 6 years of living in Brazil to get this good at this paperwork. Well, you're selfish. No, I'm a businessman. That's how I made enough money to leave America in the first place. Remember the act. Oh, look at this. Look on the screen, everybody. This is the first video we did. It's actually one of my more successful videos. Brazil is not.
I remember that one.
Yeah, definitely check that out. But it's one of those situations
part two. Mm-hmm.
where I'm having people of every political affiliation. I've got a couple of clients who are in their late 50s,
mm-hmm.
who in the past said, you know what, I'm going to wait this next 3 to 5 years, get my pension, saying, you know what, if I left now and I only got 80% of my pension, could I live on that down there? Because I don't want to wait.
Yep.
They're flat out saying, maybe I should just get out now because let's go into it. I use this word on purpose. Let me put this word on the screen. Insurrection. In the chat, does anybody know what insurrection is? Nah? Well, I'm going to give everybody a quick Google dictionary of what insurrection means. And I want to talk about this in a way that's going to make, well, it should make a lot of people uncomfortable. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Insurrection is a violent uprising against an authority or government, okay? What that means is, yes, it's illegal to do that in your own country. Yes, storming the Capitol is illegal. But here's what a lot of people don't really understand. See, I've lived in a bunch of countries. I've lived in about 15 countries. You've lived abroad. Do you think most Americans that you know understand the significance of civilians storming a government office? Do you really do you think they get what that means?
I'm seeing that it's like there's this very slow veil coming away as the media stops protecting these people and what they did and start really being honest about what really happened, as they stop calling, as they stop coddling the group of people, and we know what group that was. This is my cat. Say hi, Sabrina. Um, I'm seeing people slowly starting to wake up to the reality of what has occurred. Like we're starting to see also a lot more videos and pictures and things of our Congress people hunkered down in the chamber, in the congressional chamber, with like a desk and four guys in front of the door with handguns versus like thousands of people, you know. And of course, we've been having that conversation about how if this were another group of people, there would have been tanks, tear gas, rubber bullets, and possibly dead people. So there's also that question of how in the world was this?
If the people going in had been anything other than white Americans, they would have simply been shot to death.
Yes, I was trying not to say that because I didn't know how you felt about being that forward, but that's what I meant.
I put my dick on the table early and often. I am fortunate enough to be in a situation in life that I purchased very young. I'm okay with only being around people who want clear, open, and honest conversation. Most people don't. Most people don't.
Yes.
I could come up with a song and a dance and play in the middle of the road, and I would have a lot more fans, but I'm not that person.
Yep, I should have known. So that's exactly what I mean, So that's the whole ass conversation that's happening now. I mean, and it is so at this point it is so stark that it cannot be denied anymore. So we're finally calling white people domestic terrorists. This has some interesting implications for our futures, though. I am concerned about how that will be misapplied to just random Black people, because I'm already seeing these highlights of one brown person, for example, being highlighted as being involved too against 500,000 non-brown people. So it has some scary implications. Some of the sites that I look at, of course, they're looking at how they're going to use this to try to control people even more, and how they're going to try to stop movement even more. And that's what we were talking about, off camera, is that sense of maybe it will be more difficult to get out, and because it's something that I've heard you reference a lot. And I've had that sense too, but I had to think since last night about how to articulate that sense and why it's there. And I have a couple of things, but we can see it happening. Like, what do you think?
Well, let me do something real quick. I don't know how many. Okay, let's do it this way. I'm going to first go back, and I'm going to say, hey, what it say? Truth hurts and lies entertain. Amen. So James Nelson said, I understand exactly what that means. They wanted to change the government. Fair enough. A lot of people want to change government. Now, here's the question about how do you want to have that government change? Because everybody is all for team do some crazy shit until you realize once there's no rule of law, the least in society suffer the most. That means the brown people, the sexual minorities, the women. When shit goes crazy, they're the ones that get sacrificed on the front lines. Now, look at this. Is this how we change our government? Remember that tweet? We're locked in the House chambers and the speaker has been removed from the chamber. Now, stop for a minute. Why would you tweet out the location of where the people that the folks storming the Capitol are trying to murder? And for the record, there have been very clear, and you can Google this on your own. I'm not going to go through this. There have been very clear and credible news sources that cite people came in with loaded weapons, firearms, pipe bombs, zip ties. It's slowly coming out that this wasn't just a bunch of random people. It was some random people and a lot of people who simply wanted to go in and kill some folks. We have people.
Exactly.
How do you explain that? Is this how we're going to change the government? By telling them, hey, angry mob that erected a scaffold, by the way. Did anybody see the scaffolding? Did anybody see the noose at the Capitol?
I didn't see the noose.
Oh, really? Oh, wait. National Geographic did one on that. Let me show you. Now, this is what's interesting. Let's see. There we go. Here we go. There is this picture. And I'm going to share this with everybody. Hey, good evening. And yeah, you don't put that information out for no reason at all. Now, look at this and tell me if anybody here really understands what this means. See that picture?
Oh, I didn't see that. Wow.
Now, I am not a woodworker. Let me be clear. I am a blacksmith who has worked with wood. I have some friends that are carpenters. I want to be clear that and I am not a professional carpenter, so if anyone in here has any real woodworking experience, I want you to contradict me. That's a functioning gallows.
Yep.
That's a functioning means of execution. That's not something put together with paper and paper mache to look scary. That is a functioning gallows capable of supporting human weight.
Yes.
It doesn't matter who they were going to hang. It doesn't matter at all who they're going to hang. The fact that a United States representative or citizen had a mob ready to hang them, I mean, where do we go from there?
I think because we've seen, we live in a country that has a history of this type of thing. So I know that if America wants to correct its course, it absolutely can. Because we've seen this type of thing in Latin America many times before, but I think that people have been so far removed from this type of thing that even though it happened, people it's difficult for people to wrap their heads around it. I think I told you that I've told my family to stay hunkered down all of next week, and some of them think that I'm overreacting to it, and for me, I'm like, did you see what happened? Do you really understand what happened? But for a lot of people, I think it's kind of like a TV show, because we've had years of watching things like 24, and there is this sense of what can and cannot happen in America. So there is wanting to be removed from it. But I think that most people do not.
American exceptionalism, right?
Yes, and just what America has traditionally been until maybe after 9/11, But even, but ever since Barack Obama was our president, though, I think that having that black president, it deeply disturbed our nation, and we have not been able to come back from it. And unfortunately, he was the type of black president who was a little bit, I would say, very uncomfortable of just really owning that blackness and holding that blackness, 150%, and really discussing the issues of him being the black president as they came up, rather than always trying to be play devil's advocate. I feel that the country was never forgiven for having him. That's how a Trump happened, and I think that people are blaming a lot of things on Trump, although Trump is guilty of a lot. But some of this is not Trump. Some of this is what has always been there. But he did just give them permission to say it out loud.
Yeah, it's America. Everybody wants to act like it was different. This is America. It's America. It's what we are.
Yes.
Okay, Brent, you say you absolutely disagree with the idea about President Obama. Please leave a comment, go into why you disagree with that. My stance, and the stance, stop me if I'm wrong, Sister Vanetta, is that one of the biggest issues that America, particularly white America, had was the concept of a president who was, to be clear, on paper, was no better or worse than his predecessors. He was a regular standard president who happened to be black, but the concept of a black president did too much to upset the apple cart of America's way of being. It took away part of what was called Southern strategy that allowed the average white American to believe that no matter how bad I am still better than the least black American. And even worse, it took black people all over the world that could look at it and say, you know what, the chances might be slim, but if not me, maybe my kid can actually, if he can become president, maybe I can become mayor or governor, and then the next generation of president. And that's the problem that a lot of people around the world, it wasn't just white Americans that were angry. Let me be clear about that.
Obama is the sense that I have, because I remember living in Ireland and the night of our inauguration, the first inauguration of Obama, the bars didn't close, the pubs did not close. They stayed out all night drinking, waiting to see if it would happen. And outside of the Middle East, I think that over there he is not beloved in some other areas, but definitely in Western countries, this man is still beloved. Like the whole world is kind of like, is Joe Biden going to be like Barack Obama? Barack Obama, as far as his policies went, of course, very standard thing, but he was a genius of social media, and he was a genius communicator. He had that ability to do that, to bring people together and all of that good stuff.
I'm gonna throw two things out there then. One, let's address what Brett said. I disagree that some people haven't forgiven the country that a black president was elected. Now, here's where we may be saying the same thing. In 2021, that may be true, but it was the anger that a black American was elected that allowed the bridge to be built for Donald Trump, who I'm glad was elected. Let me be clear. Let me put my dick on the table again. I'm glad he was elected. A lot of people forget the alternative was Clinton. But let me be clear about this. He forced America to smell the pile of shit that all non-white Americans knew was already there. It's only now in history that a white American sees a noose hang in the front yard in reference to who they are. That's why so many white Americans who have no racism and anti-racism are going, wait a minute, this shit is out of control. This stuff has been happening to Native American black folks since the beginning.
Exactly.
And here's why you and I will always part ways, Brother Brent. I know you personally. I know Vladimir personally. I don't really think you understand the privilege you have of saying, I didn't see the racism you're talking about. And then he said, don't worry, I experienced it firsthand for you. Like, these are probably the two most potent comments I've had from my guests in a very long time. I agree that you probably didn't see any of the racism, but I also agree with absolute certainty he did.
Yes. I've seen that from a lot of my own white friends as well, in the same way that it's difficult for me to walk completely in their world, perceiving everything as they would. There are blind spots to what's really happening, and it does not matter how many unarmed black people you see being shot in the back on the news all day, every day. There's always this idea that that it's equal for white people, but somehow we just see the news about the Dylan Roofs going and mowing down 10 black people in a church and then being taken to Burger King. Somehow those are the news stories that we hear. Somehow we're just seeing news stories of the black man with no gun who decides to run away from the police being shot in the back, while the white kid who does the same thing is treated with absolute kid gloves. So we see the story. I remember that guy. I think he was an ex-military guy that was in Texas shooting police officers and doing all of that. And they pulled out a freaking robot to go and blow this man up, But
here's where we are.
Do you remember the Las Vegas shooter though? I remember reading about that guy, and the stories that you saw about him were that man shot and killed 60 people at a country music concert in Las Vegas. You know, and the stories were very understanding.
Yeah.
He must have been sick. You know, he didn't do it. He couldn't have done it because he was evil.
Yeah, he could
But
have
on
been.
on the other hand, Harambe, do you remember Harambe when that little boy fell in the cage with that gorilla?
Yeah.
You know, and the next day, most of the animal experts said, hell yeah, they were correct to shoot the gorilla. Unfortunately, you know, but that gorilla could have been spooked by something and just broken that kid's neck in a second. So that was the unfortunate result.
Wait.
But the
Before this
family,
gets away from us, we got a couple of comments.
yeah,
Okay, Brent said,
yeah, go
"Can't
ahead.
we? There are blind spots in the Black community as well." Vladimir is slightly incredulous. Then Craig says, "Actually, good question. Can you describe those blind spots?" And he said to you at Vanetta that there is highly selective incidents and the data disagrees with you. Now, here's where I believe Brett is going, and we can have this conversation if we're going to go down a different path. We talked about some data that he supplied that showed, indeed, it's about equal per capita deaths at the hand of police. The same data recognizes that if you're not white, you're 50% more likely to be met with violence. And that's like, on paper, no, Black people are not. Yeah, actually they are. That means while equal numbers of people may die, simply being Black means you'll be raped, beaten, sodomized with a police baton, humiliated. All that shit is twice as likely if you're just brown. But now here's the thing. Brett said, can't we agree that there are blind spots in the Black community as well? I can safely say to you, there are no blind spots about American racism that Black Americans are unaware of. And I will also go with Brother Craig. He says, can you describe them? There, we'll just leave those out there.
I would say that a blind spot that Black people have is the idea that 100% of white people all over America are living like Bill Gates. You know, that's our blind spot. You know, like that.
I understood why so many Black Americans think that being white gets you a car, a watch, and a happy family. Like that's one of the best community relations tricks I think white America ever pulled. Because commercials will convince people around the world that white people don't have the same problems everybody else does.
Yes, exactly. Like so, you know, that's the blind spot of Black Americans is that you know, a lot of Black people they don't have white friends. They don't have the opportunity to really interact deeply with white people. And so there's a kind of storybook fantasy about white life that we see on our media. You know, all the heroes are white. The Luke Skywalkers are white. The Modern Families are white. The Sex and the Cities, all the women are white. You can be a hoe if you're white in Sex and the City, but if you're Black, you a hoe. You know, all of that kind of stuff. Everything about whiteness is represented in the media as being acceptable and perfect. Even when they kill, when they want to mow down 60 people at a concert, it's because they were disturbed. You know, when they want to mow down people in a movie theater, they had problems. When they want to mow down people at a public school, for some reason, the police didn't investigate when 10 people called telling them that they had a disturbed neighbor. You know, even our insurrectionists in the days following our insurrection, where like thousands of Caucasian people went into the Capitol, and now it's looking like they were aided by people from the inside. You know, there was the first stories that we saw written about some of the insurrectionists. Like I remember the woman that was shot. There's a video of that lady being shot by one of the Secret Service people, and you know, the first thing that you hear about her is that she's an ex-military person, you know, and this and this. Oh yeah, and by the way, she was also a radical, you know, and they shot her, you know. But there's a video showing her trying to overcome the barricade, huh?
He said it's a glitch in the system. My personal favorite, one of my buddies pointed this out to me. Do you know how many YouTube channels that are in the billions of viewers that are all about white American families that have like 17 children? If a black family had more than 2 kids, they are called the most irresponsible fucking super breed. It's hilarious. But let me go back to Brent because I don't ever want to not allow him to get, because we may get some insight from how he thinks it. I would say there's more one deep blind spot of assuming racism and bigotry where there is none, but it's a routine assumption when it's in itself perpetuates bigotry. I would liken that to this, and this is something I'm gonna throw at you, Vanetta. To the guys watching this, and specifically because Brent and I are men, it's kind of like when a woman says, I don't want to let your buddy give me a ride home because that guy is creepy and he is going to do something weird. And you look at him and say, but I've never seen him do anything weird, and I don't think he's going to do anything weird. Why are you assuming he does anything weird? If a woman tells you, hey, that dude is creepy, can you take me home instead of him? I don't know too many guys that wouldn't be like, all right, I'll just give you a ride home myself. But it's the same thing. Well, you see danger where there is none. If you're a woman, your job is to see danger before it hits you. If you're black, your job is to correctly identify racism before it gets you killed.
Yes, I would say that this is common. Whoever dominates, men dominate women. So of course they've never had a problem unless it hits too close to home, and that's a really common thing for white people to say as well. To just turn a blind eye to what we see in the news every single day, to turn a blind eye to the demonization of black people, and pretend like it's not there, to not dig a little bit deeper and see how the guy that shot 60 people was treated beautifully in the media versus the guy who the whole world saw a cop kneeling on his neck until he's dead, for what was it, 8 minutes and 36 seconds. But you still have people trying to justify how maybe he deserved to die because maybe he gave a somebody a counterfeit $20 bill, or maybe he was on drugs that day, so he deserves to have the cop kneel on his neck and die and die. Whereas on the other,
he said assumption does not equal fact, perception is not reality. We can have an entire discussion on why you're absolutely wrong. Perception is reality.
But these are real, and these are real examples that I'm using. These are not things that just came out of thin air. And usually when a cop kills a white kid for absolutely no reason, like running away from the cop, we hear it from the rafters. With white people that are shot by police that we don't hear about, my question is like, what did they do to deserve it? Because it's only if they didn't deserve it that we.
Let's go back to our central conceit. What happened that made so many white Americans and conservative white Americans decide, I need to get out of this country? What happened on the 6th with that insurrection? What made them say, I need to call YusefWateef and get out of this country and get to Brazil or whatever country they choose, because this shit has finally gotten to a point where I don't feel safe anymore? When did that happen? Uh-oh. Did your internet drop on us? You went all glitch mode. You went Matrix.
Yeah, let me go out and come back in. I'm seeing that as well. Let me go out and come back in.
Gotcha.
I'm going to change my position.
Yeah. Hey, I want to point out what Brother Vladimir said. He said, I'm really glad we can talk about these issues without going at it with each other. It's hard to find a forum like this. Yeah, it's good to be able to talk with you folks and have different people share their opinion, and we don't have to resort to, name calling and blah, 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 blah. There are always going to be a few bad apples, but for the most part, you guys are awesome. You really are. The people who come here and take part of these things with me, and by the way, like, share, and subscribe. Like and share. Share this on your Facebook and your Twitter. That's important. That's how we get to have these great conversations. But yeah, it's one of those weird situations where I wish more people could do this, but I also understand, because I have some friends who are far more successful on YouTube. I understand how much more you can get out of YouTube as far as fans and clients and people who want to see your business. If you go to that extreme and you just go balls deep into, I hate these people and I hate those people, I'm just not going to do that. Now, what do you say? Zach, you said racism is used as a crutch by people. There is a victim narrative liberals use as much as they can, unfortunately. I agree. I get a lot of angry looks from Black Americans when I tell them, why do you want to be, hold on, let me let Vanetta back in the club. You there?
Yeah, I think I came back into the house. Maybe that's a little bit better. Yeah.
Read what just popped
Sorry
up.
about that. Huh?
Read what just popped up.
What just popped up?
Look on the screen and read it.
Racism is used as a crutch by people, though. There is a victim narrative liberals use as much as they can, unfortunately. There definitely is that element, you know, when they want to make some money or start an NGO or something like that. So Black people do have to be mindful of that as well. You know, that's undeniable that there is that element. I can't do it because I'm Black or whatever. But
let me say one thing. This might be where white Americans have one up on Black Americans. That statement just opened my eyes to something. I know lots of Black Americans who think at some point help might still be coming.
Yes.
Help's not coming. It never has been. I grew up in a family where I was taught, be self-sufficient, help's not coming, white America doesn't care about you. There may be some that do, but those will be the exception to the rule, never depend on it. Right now, I see a lot of white Americans who understand very clearly, oh shit, this is gonna go sideways. I'm not waiting around because the government's not gonna help me.
Yes.
I'm getting the fuck out.
Yes. Yeah, you know, the hope that I have is the youngins. I do see younger people growing up kind of in a world where they're not, even if they are not physically in contact with somebody who is not like them, they're growing up in the age of the internet so that they know a lot more about different people, and they are not necessarily colorblind. That's not possible, but they just don't care. I remember about 2 years ago, a white guy from California, about maybe 25 years old, who was traveling through the South. He contacted me on one of the groups that I was in on Facebook for foreign people, and he was just asking if there was anybody in Fortaleza, and could he rent a room for maybe a month. And I was really shocked by some of the conversations that I had with him, because of course we had some conversations about race. And for older white Americans, there is a big fear of being annihilated or being the minority race or whatever. But I was shocked because this kid was just kind of like, yeah, you know, I don't care. you know, you know, if we're not the number one race at all in America anymore, you know, who cares? And since that, I was shocked by that. But since that time, when I observed some of the young people talking about things, that's the attitude that a lot of them have. That race is not really what they care about. Life conditions, community, things like that seems to be what they're moving more towards. The ones that are not in that absolute upper echelon where they want to have everything, you know, nicely controlled for the next millennia anyway.
Yeah, and I'm getting a lot of clients in there. When I say young, I mean 25, 26, 27, that period where they're fresh out of college, and they're like, you know what, I don't want to stay here. I don't like the way this is going. And they grew up with the internet, because I'm Generation X. I was the last generation to grow up and become an adult with no internet. The internet didn't become ubiquitous in my life until I was 20, 21. There was email in college, but email was something you checked it like on Friday, maybe when you got home. But it wasn't like you were sitting on the internet. Like, you had to be really deep in the game to be on the internet when I was in college. Yeah. And right now, I have clients, their entire life, they've been aware that there are Black expats all over the world. And they're like, I can't wait to finish college. I'm not staying here. I'm going to Brazil. I'm going to Antarctica. I'm going to Japan. You know, there's a woman who left University of America, went to Japan, learned Japanese fluently, and went to Japanese university. She has a YouTube channel. I'm going to try and chat with her on here. And she was like, yeah, growing up, I knew that there was an outside world. Whereas me, I was fortunate to have a father, a mother, grandmother who gave me books and education and opportunity. But right now, it's just I have young clients who their entire life they've been on Facebook chat and YouTube chat and whatever chat with people from other countries. And they're like, oh yeah, when I'm done with graduation, my friend that I've had since middle school and we've been online friends together, I'm gonna go and hang out in his country.
And we're also seeing the rise of the digital nomad phenomenon. You know, where there's a world full of young people, like a world full of young people who don't have just this emotional tie. For me, because I grew up during the time when you had to say the Pledge of Allegiance every day, I do still have this deeply emotional tie to America. I do still experience deep pain when people when people say bad things about it if they're not American. But I have no idea. I have no idea, and I have no idea if it's because of my brainwashing or if it's real because I grew up, for 20 years pledging allegiance to my country. So there is a deep loyalty to America. But at the same time, I see that I see the rise of the stateless person. The people that seem to just now be understanding in large droves that they can spend 180 days indefinitely, traveling, and they can spend 6 months just for the rest of their lives if they want to. If they don't feel like getting a permanent residence somewhere, they can spend that time traveling indefinitely. Just spending 180 days here, 180 days there. I see that because the world is becoming less stable, younger people are not having children. The think pieces are always talking about how it's because women can read now, so they don't want to have kids. But it's more than that. It's that the world is not stable. We don't know if we're even going to have a planet in 100 years. And it's in America, it is prohibitively expensive at this point. Like unless you have a certain income, you better not be having any kids.
Well, I worked for before when I left the United States. I left when I was 37. I tell people I purchased my freedom at 37 years old. I left the United States. I had 2 university degrees, 2 businesses that I could run online, and I had traveled a bit. I understood something from 10 years as a financial professional. I worked doing everything from mutual funds to cash value life insurance. I understood the cost of life in a way that most people don't. And I understood then I could probably go that route and have children, or I could just I realized, and this is a phrase I did a video about, it's called a man needs little.
Yes, and minimalism, the concept of minimalismo, yes.
I realized with my level of education and my ability to earn, I can live an amazing baller lifestyle anywhere in the world, including America. But if I'm outside America, it gets even better. A lot of people now don't have to discover that themselves. They can click online and see me or you and go, you know what? I mean, when in the past have you been able to reach out to somebody who is successful in another country? I get emails every day. Hey, saw your YouTube. Can I call you? When people ask if they can call me, I don't charge them anything, for I know I should. You want to have a 5-minute chat with me about I'm good with it. And you're like, so you're telling me that if I did all these things and I've got my degree already, and I tell them, listen, don't go buy the car they want you to buy. Throw away your credit cards. Put yourself in a position to make $300 US a month. You can go to 90% of the world. I mean, $300 US a week, you can live in 90% of the world and live well. I lead a better lifestyle. I had a house with 4 bedrooms, a swimming pool, a hot tub, a pool guy, a backyard. I had all that shit. I can lead a better life here for a fraction of the cost and not have half the upkeep, even though I led a very
yeah. Well, I think that you're touching on something really really important too, because as the world becomes more unstable, we see a lot of people exploring ideas of minimalism. That's what I feel like. That's what you're describing. And in many ways, I practice that myself. The older I get, the less concerned I am with stuff. I just downsized because I thought, okay, I'm paying too much to be in this place to have this stuff. So I ended up donating most of it and coming to a smaller, more reasonable space. And I think that a lot of people now, I feel like humanity is going through a fundamental shift in consciousness, because when I was younger, and even now to a certain degree, there's kind of this idea that if you're not a billionaire at this point, then you don't have any money. That's how extreme things have gotten. And like so much of our news is centered around, how Jeff Bezos is going to be the first trillionaire on the planet ever. And we see it every day. Oh, Bill Gates is rich, so obviously he knows everything.
Clients, when I was a financial professional, I would teach my clients, why are you worried about when you can make your first million? Why don't you just be a 10,000-aire first? Let's get you 10,000 clear in the bank. Then become 100,000. Let's work from there, because it does make your life better. Because if you want to listen, you can do the work to become a millionaire. There are a lot of ways that my clients and I can do it, but I'm like, do you really want to sacrifice that? Why not be a couple of 100,000 there and just live great?
Exactly. I can remember during the time of Occupy Wall Street, becoming aware of the phrase the 1%. And I remember finally one day, after maybe a year or two, hearing about the 1% being referred to, doing a little Google search and seeing, well, how much does the 1% actually make? And I found out at that time the 1% was only making $250,000 a year, for a family of four. And I was like, what? Because in my mind, the 1%, they were all billionaires. And that really shifted how I saw how much money I need, to be more than comfortable. I've heard you discussing several times before, the fact that in America there's no health care, but in freaking Brazil, the supposed third world by some people's standard, you can go into a clinic without any money in your pocket and go and see a doctor if you're sick, and then walk out of the clinic without any money in your pocket, having seen a doctor.
Even better. If you have some money, like I don't want to live on the government dole. The fact that I have some money means the level of healthcare that I can buy as just a working class man far exceeds the level of healthcare I can. Listen, we're getting too far away. I don't want this to turn into an advertisement for Brazil. But I'm just glad we can have this chat. And I really wanted to go into, what had a lot of people wake up, what had particularly a lot of my white American clients wake up and say, this shit is not for me. That's the crazy part. And I think that we're going to have to do a follow-up.
What's making them choose Brazil? Because Brazil is not traditionally the most popular place for people to relocate. Why the interest in Brazil now, do you think?
Oh, yeah, I can tell you, because Brazil is getting more and more famous. Brazil is a place where you can have developing nation prices with first world amenities. You can go, and I'm not trying to cast any shade on places like Mexico, Colombia, the Dominican Republic. You can go to those places and maybe the money goes farther. The problem is you just don't have the stuff that you have here. Living in Sao Paulo, Brazil, I might as well be living in any city in the United States. I'm running Wi-Fi downtown.
Yes. An interesting phenomenon that I see happening here up in the Northeast in Fortaleza, because where I am, there are just hundreds and hundreds of miles of coast, of beach and coast. And so what's happening here is that there is a European invasion. I tongue-in-cheek call it a European invasion, but there are a lot of people, particularly French, that are moving along the coast, and they're doing the Hotel Posada thing, they're probably getting permanent residency or citizenship through investment because it's still ridiculously cheap here compared to places like America.
Yep.
And after they do that, they set up something for them to do. Usually, do you guys have posadas in Sao Paulo? Kind of these bread and
Yeah.
breakfast type places.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what most of them do, is that they do a restaurant or a posada. They probably have euros that are supplementing their income, and living in a little beach community here. The land is painfully cheap to build things. Is painfully cheap. And when they start marketing to other Europeans, because that's what they're doing a lot with places like Jericoacoara, which used to be a quaint little beach village that people went to get away from everything. But now there's a bunch of Europeans there that they basically tried to make it, I think, into a kind of Ibiza that is here in the Northeast. So they're bringing that vibe there of partying and all of that kind of stuff, you know. And sim, concordo, eu concordo completamente. É por isso que tô aqui ainda, né? Where is Alegre e Poesia from? From São Paulo?
Yes. No. I think.
Quer dizer, Ceará, Fortaleza é a capital. Sim. Yes, but all around, and in my channel, on my little channel, I explore a lot the interior, the countryside, because I'm from the country, so I love the countryside here too. A lot of people have this idea that in the country there's nothing. There's nothing. It's just hot and dry and just poor people. But it's not. There are a lot of these cute little cities and things that you can. That I mean, if you're retiring without a lot of money and you need to be able to make what you have stretch for the next 20 years. I mean, you could go, instead of living in a Sao Paulo, you can go to the outskirts of Sao Paulo, and there's just all this farmland and cheap property and things like that, small communities that you could choose.
Well, interestingly enough, there is some folks I know here that I was considering. I know somebody with some pretty old parents, and things are kind of tough. And I was actually considering doing a reverse mortgage with their parents if we can get the paperwork done. Meaning, instead of their parents paying for anything, I'll pay them for the rest of their life for the privilege of saying I will legally own that place when they die.
Wow. You're thinking about doing that here?
Yeah. I've got some people lined up and I'm thinking about it.
Oh, that's an awesome idea. So I don't know, like what are, because one of the things that we were originally talking about was the idea that there's a lot of movement happening in the world, but it's getting more difficult at the same time.
Yes. And see, this is the issue. When people talk about leaving America, it's hard to leave the ship after it's already on fire. A lot of people are finding out that these countries are doing a couple of different things. One, a lot of them are just flat out saying, everybody but the Americans can come.
Yep. But it's also another phenomenon is the developed world. There are these different forces that are at work, and I want you to tell me if you can see the same thing. So the first big force is that the entire developed world is in negative population, at like negative birth rates, like every single developed country in the West, particularly most European countries, they don't have enough natives of those countries having babies. And so they're becoming increasingly dependent on developing nations to supply them with humans. At the same time, outside of America, it's really, really difficult to immigrate to a Canada, Australia, most of Europe, because of their point system that they have. You have to be a certain age, have a degree, or have 100 grand that you just have sitting around that you can pay to go through one of their university programs as a means of gaining your immigration status that way. So right now, America is still, even though we're on the hot seat, it's still easier to immigrate to America than it is to Canada or Australia. But now that we've had this president that's like, the borders are closed and we don't want as many people over here, that has put a damper in that. Although I'm sure that's going to be one of the first things that they reverse. And then even the countries that have traditionally been kind of easy countries to go to and cheap countries to go to, I even see that they are starting to make it more difficult to get those visas, those permanent visas and residencies and citizenships and things, or it's becoming more expensive.
Did you see what popped up?
Yes. Yeah, Japan is in crisis. I don't think that most people really understand how dire the situation in Japan is, because they have been so long being kind of a non-immigrant friendly country, right. and they remain that way.
Mm-hmm. I lived in Japan for a year or two, and one of the interesting things is this. I have some friends who are, by the way, okay, here, I'm going to give everybody her channel. It's called Fortaleza in English.
Thank you.
And I'm going to put it here.
My channel is very lo-fi. It's very me with my camera, just showing some of my, showing people some things about Fortaleza, because we just don't have a lot of information about the place on the internet. So it's kind of bloggish.
And here's the thing, it doesn't matter. I've told you a long time ago that your channel it's kind of criminal. We need to get her up to at least 490. If everybody can just go right now to click that and click subscribe. I want to check this again before we hang up. I want her to be at least at 490, if not 500. We got 20 people watching right now.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
And share what we're doing on your community tab when we're done. But yeah, here's the thing, your channel, I mean, you like talking to people like talking to you. The good thing about YouTube is this, it doesn't matter what kind of channel you have. If you have quality content, you can do a bunch of small videos, you can do long form shit talking like I do, but it works. And I always told you right now, there is a young Black woman who needs to see your face. You know?
Yeah. Some of it too is because Fortaleza is not São Paulo. Fortaleza is is not the Rio in São Paulo. A lot of people don't even know that Fortaleza even exists. Brazil has a lot to grow, but unfortunately, public policies are not at all favorable. I fear the foreign investments will be scared. It depends. It really depends on where you are in Brazil. Ceará is a freak of nature. The more I learn about this place, for example, the more I see that it's an unusually progressive place. This place abolished slavery 5 years before the rest of Brazil, and they have tended to have more progressive governors and mayors here. So in the last 10 years, I've seen an explosion of growth. So I think a lot of the policies, it depends on where you live. And I tend to think that if you're not a big city person, if you don't have the personality to really be able to thrive in a São Paulo, because a São Paulo is for hustlers, consider moving to a small town. Consider moving somewhere that's not São Paulo or Rio.
So he just asked me to do an internet speed test. I got a bunch of things running in the background, but let's find out. Let's look at this. Can everybody see that right now? So you guys are getting real time, and I've got a couple things open in the background. Let's see how it goes. How does that feel, guys? We got 255 down, 14 up. Because Black Torch said he runs security operations, so he needs a high speed. So how does that look to you? There you go. Josh just subscribed. Everybody, go subscribe to that channel. Oh, there we go.
Thank you. Thank you.
There we go. Here we go. Okay, now, there we go.
Thank you, guys.
There we go. We need to get that. We need to get that up.
So I promise I'll start making videos soon.
There you go. I'm sitting here on my sofa running it off my router is, I don't know, about a meter away. But that's my internet. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Thank you. Getting a few people on board. But yeah, you know, that's the other thing about leaving the United States. You know, it's not as easy as it once was because unfortunately, simply having the blue passport doesn't get you as far as it used to.
Yes.
And a lot of people are finding that out the hard way.
Yeah, it's still a pretty strong passport. It's a very American thing to always be in competition. But a U.S. passport will get you most of where you want to go. There'll be a couple of holdouts, you know, but that's true that it doesn't get you as many places as you could go in the past without applying for a visa.
He said people pay $100 for 60 down and 4 up. Man, I pay $20 a month on my internet. I think it's 20 for my phone and 20 for my internet, and I have like the balls out package. Ciao. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like, you know, when people say, again, what makes Brazil a place where people are running to? I think Mexico is still dealing with a lot of stigma. I think the Dominican Republic and Colombia are great, but they're very limited on what you have access to. Whereas, like you said, Sao Paulo is one of the most cosmopolitan, metropolitan cities in the world. You can wake up, have breakfast, go to an art museum from a Congolese artist, go to lunch at a German restaurant cooked by a German. After that, go to a museum and see I don't know, an art exhibit or a music exhibit done by a Colombian sitting in with a jazz band from Brazil. Then go have dinner at a Lebanese restaurant, have some roasted lamb, go home, come back, then go out to one of the many things they have at night, you know, go to one of the night markets. I mean, it just like that. And a lot of people don't understand. That's one of the things that's making Brazil, and also people like us. A lot of folks are waking up to Brazil. Most people don't even know that Brazil is the same size, depending on how you count it, or bigger than the United States.
Yeah, I think physically, that's the thing. Okay, so that's one of the things that I I always talk about as well, is that physically, it's a little bit, as far as landmass goes, it's a little bit bigger than the United States, but it has like 100 million fewer people in it than the United States. And so as a result, there are a lot of interesting opportunities. And again, I because I'm a little bit off the beaten path, my perspective is that for the people that are willing to do a little bit of the mapping, willing to learn the language and do some legwork to help other people who come behind you, there are massive opportunities. You know, for at the very least buying a cheap plot of land and having you a house, you know, for when you get old.
Here's my thing. How come you hadn't thought about Salvador? Because I'm thinking when I finally hang up my axe and put it over the mantelpiece, it might be Salvador for me. Get a couple of dogs, a little house.
I think for me, really, the sky is the limit with this place. You know, as I've said before, I'm actually a fan of the smaller outskirt towns that are close to big cities because the price of living, the cost of living is so like astronomically cheaper than living inside of the city. And so there's this place in me that wants to move maybe just slightly to the outskirts of Fortaleza. And Fortaleza is not so cosmopolitan like Sao Paulo. It's the small town of the big cities. Big population, but the way that this city is situated is that every neighborhood is created as if it's its own small towns, and very pedestrian friendly. So if that's if you want a kind of a slower pace, come to a place like the Northeast. But if you like that fast place with lots of options, then the Sao Paulo or Rio are better, I think.
So look at that. Cost of living, both places compared.
Yeah, 15.22% higher. Mm-hmm.
So let's go down here to this. Meal at a cheap restaurant in Fortaleza is 20 reais. Meal for 2 people, you can go out of control for 70. Ooh. Is that about accurate? You and I go out to dinner, it's about 70?
Oh, yeah, like if you're not in the rich neighborhood, you can do that. But like one pizza here costs 70. Like if you want to go to Domino's Pizza, one pepperoni large pizza costs 70 reais. It depends on where you go. You will not be able to go to the nicest restaurants for that, but one of the smaller restaurants 2 people could eat. Or if you leave the most expensive part of the city, you can find that.
How's that?
Electricity, heating. An interesting thing is that we don't really have heating here because it's so hot all the time. And I would say that we use if you have an air conditioner, those things eat up energy. But if you're kind of frugal like I am, I use fans instead of air conditioners. My power bill is about 100 reais per month. So it's much less than that.
Because mine is
so in dollars, that's what, like 20, 25 or $35 per month.
Yeah, but look what we got here. Black Torch. Look what Black Torch said.
Exactly.
Now here's the nitty gritty. This is about accurate. A 1-bedroom for me, right outside the middle of the city. I live 15 minutes away from Avenida Paulista, and I pay a little under 14 a month.
Yes. 1,400 in dollars or reais?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, so I think if you can pay, in most of the cities at this point, if you can pay 1,500 for rent, and here they also tend to have a condominium price. If you like one of the old dinosaur apartments that's very big, like 2,000 square feet, you can have it for 1,500 to 2,000 reais, but the condominium price is going to be about the same thing because there are fewer units and it's full of old people. But if you want like a cute apartment in a good part of the city usually with a balcony, yeah, 1,500 and with a lower condominium price, 1,500 is about what you would have to pay for the rent.
In Sao Paulo, my realtor, who gives a lot of my clients places to live, showed me this place. It was one of those old apartments. It was gorgeous. It only cost like $50 US a month more than my small apartment, one guy apartment here. It was just too. I'm like, first of all, I don't have any kids. It's got like 3 bedrooms, a giant kitchen. I'm like, I would never be able to. Like, I already pay a maid to come and clean my little apartment. I just couldn't see myself living in a place that big. She was like, you would love this place. I'm like, I would. And she sent me pictures all the time. And it's like, no, it's just too big.
I lived in one of those for about 4 years because I was just so fascinated by it. The apartment is literally 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. And the freaking thing, every single bedroom is en suite. So they have a bathroom inside every bedroom. And they have the what I call the slaves quarters, because a lot in the old days, a lot of the families, and sometimes you will still see this. They have a live-in maid, and so she'll have her own room, all like behind the kitchen, a little room with its own bathroom behind the kitchen, separated from the main part of the house, which for me, I've always used it as an office or just an extra room. And I was just so fascinated by that I was just like, what? But if of course, during COVID year, I'm just like, I don't need all this space. So I moved to something about half that size. And this place, the newer place, it has a gym upstairs, beautiful view in the cobertura, um, literally 2 blocks away from the beach. And the thing, the thing is so crazy because the way that people think about money, at least here in Fortaleza, is really different as well. Like what they would consider a lot of money. Um, like the guy that just talked about 3,500 for an apartment in Brooklyn. People here think,
Yeah.
it's too. They hate renting. They're like, oh, it's too expensive. So there's almost this weird societal societally determined cap on how much stuff can cost here, even in the best neighborhoods, because over a certain amount, nobody's going to pay it, you know.
Wow.
And so that's something that I really like.
Wow. That's mm, mm. Listen, I got to get out of here. I got some stuff to handle. I got some clients calling me because they see them online and everybody does the same. Call me as soon as you get off. Call me as soon as you get off. All right. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I love the business I'm in. I love what I do. Also, for a lot of people, and this is something I'm actually doing. Oh, wait. Bello said you can live comfortably with $1,000 a month.
For less, for even less. That $1,000 right now is worth about 5,000 reais.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot that extent. Yeah, you're right.
A little bit
Yeah.
more.
You could actually hold on a minute. Let me see something. 1,000 USD in BRL. Let's see what today's exchange rate is. Yeah. Yeah, you out of control. 1,000 US a month, you're good. Yeah. 1,000 US a month, you're good. Because I told my clients that I want them to come to Brazil with the intention of having 1,200 per month, because I want it to all be a little extra, just that extra bit of cushion to get them at 6'3".
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, so so before you leave, where do you see the trends going of people leaving America, but also just the general migration around the world?
Well, two things. One, Black Torch. I don't know what the speed check is there. I don't live there right now. As far as the people leaving around the world, I think we're going to have an increase of what we already have, so to speak. It's going to be more of a brain drain. It's not going to be fair. Those of us who have the option and have explored it are going to get out faster. It's not going to be the people in the United States that the people that are left in the United States are going to be the ones that are at least serious, like they're straight up loyalists, or they can't leave. And that's the scary part.
Yes.
That's the scary part.
Do you see a fundamental shift, not happening overnight, but over time? There's a part of me that feels the United States going under the beginning painful stages of just fundamentally shifting what it is. But this is the cracking apart phase of that's uncomfortable to look at and all of that.
Yes.
Do you think one day, for example, they'll have the universal health care,
No.
reasonable college, things like that?
Mm. No.
I think that the brain drain may absolutely force it, because as young people start understanding, oh my God, I can I have to pay half my taxes in Canada, for example, but look at what I get. Because I see that conversation a lot, or in Norway or something like that. But look what I get out of it. Um, but as well, I feel like our investment in our military, our physical military, over everything else. Something that continues to shock me is how weak our digital security is. Because living in Brazil has taught me. I feel like Brazil is head and shoulders ahead of the United States in its digital security and capabilities. Like, you're not seeing data breaches and stuff like that every other day, but in the United States, oh my God,
Well, watch this.
data breach. Mm-hmm.
Look what Gulak said. A lot of Americans don't think we get anything free here. One of the things that capitalism as it exists in the United States does, and I can tell you this is a lie, not from a civilian perspective, but someone who spent 10 years as a financial professional. One of the things that capitalism does in the United States is it convinces you that you only deserve what you work for, and that as a citizen who pays taxes, you don't deserve human rights. Now, remember, I've lived all over the world, and in some countries, you might pay more money than you should for a new phone or a new computer. In some countries, you might pay more for a new car. But the concept of being able to afford decent education and medicine is a human right, because it makes their society better. Whereas in America, well, if you deserve to have medicine because you got cancer, you would, because you'd have enough money. But here's the trick. The average American doesn't even know that the insurance their job gives them, that they think they have, isn't nearly enough to cover an illness until they have the illness. And then they're on the other side of the equation trying to convince their other friends, no, we need to change the system. And they're saying, oh, you're only saying that because you're sick. Yes, dumbass. That's exactly why they're saying it. So instead of me, and I tell people all the time, YusefWateef is not built for struggle. When I realized the game was rigged, there are three things you can do. You can kneel down and accept the system the way it is without complaint and be happy you got something. You can fight the government and the system, which you'll always lose, and maybe more than your life. Or you can run. I'm a runner. I'm not built for struggle. I got cousins and people who call me, don't you feel bad for not being here? No, I don't. I'm about to hit the gym. I'm about to squat. I'm about, what am I at? 265 for 25. Then I'm going to go spend an hour practicing my broke-ass Portuguese. Then I'm going to deal with my clients for another 6 or 7 hours after that. And I'm going to go to sleep in my comfortable bed in my apartment that I can afford with less than a few percentage points of my income, and be okay with that.
And what do you think about medical tourism? Because I've been telling my friends and family, save $5,000 as your emergency fund, and if you ever get into trouble, come and visit me here. Because that's more than enough to pay.
In business, I've done that for people. Like, people think they only call me just to say I want to become a citizen. I've had people come here because the same process that in America is going to cost you 10 grand will cost you 5 grand here for the exact same procedure. But another great thing America does, watch this. America convinces you that any doctor from any place else in the world is ignorant. They don't know what they're doing in other countries. They don't have doctors there. They don't know what medicine is. And
okay, so before you leave, I know you got to go, but before you leave, okay, so that's a really interesting one. How do you perceive, because we live in a system where the system here needs for people to stay healthy. So as a result, I would say that the access to basic health care is so good here. So if you have high blood pressure here, before they're going to put you on a pill here, they're going to send you to a nutritionist, maybe send you to the gym for 6 months, maybe even send you to an endocrinologist, all this stuff, all of this extra stuff that you can have access to in order for you to naturally get back into as good of health as possible. And then you go back to the doctor in 6 months, and then he tells you, okay, yay or nay. But they're always going to be trying to get you off of those pills if possible. Whereas in America, they want to treat everything through extensive surgical procedures and pills. Huh?
Yeah, in America, they make their money on giving you pills. Well,
yeah. Yep.
And that's. I'll give you something else that's been happening. You know, a few people here were talking about when they get their businesses together and when they do certain things. Some of the people here are part of it, but I always tell people to join my Patreon, because my Patreon, I'm going to type it here, is less fun, more business and money. My Patreon is something a few people here are part of. This is where we make a lot of those decisions and discussions, talking about boring things that nobody wants to watch on YouTube, like how they started their independent insurance adjusting business, how they do an import-export business from the ground up, what you need to do, where you need to register, all those things. And this is, I tell people all the time, I'm not going to go through the making you read all this. Click the link, follow it. And if you have any questions about it, you can ask me. But we've built up quite a library of success, and not just successful. This is look at me. It's here's how you build your business to mirror my business that I took overseas. And we're doing quite a bit of that. We're doing quite a bit of that. You know, and there it is. You know, so what are you doing? Are you, oh, thank you. Vlad says great content. Thank you. So what are you doing for your dinero out there?
I'm an independent teacher. I'm a private English teacher, and it was crazy because I thought that COVID was going to kill me, because my whole shtick was that, okay, I'll come to you to do your classes, you know, and you can charge a lot of money to give private classes to people. And then COVID came, and I thought, that's it, I'm dead. But what ended up happening is that the way that you were slammed with more clients, because I had no idea that there was this big market of people out there that wanted to do their classes online, that actually preferred to do their classes online, and that don't have a problem paying about the same amount to do classes online that they would pay to do them face to face, you know. So yeah, like, so I'm a private English teacher here, and that's what I do. I do online classes.
You know, I have an English teaching company, and I hire teachers.
You do? Tell us something about it.
The peer circle, I was an independent teacher, and then what I did is I just started bringing in so many clients, I started hiring teachers to teach for me. So if you got room in your schedule, when we get offline, you know, I'm always looking for good help.
Yeah, well, please send me whatever you have. My schedule, like those weird times, like between 2 and 5, I could be.
Let's do this. Let's say goodbye to them, and I'm going to say, let's
bye, guys.
And I want everybody, like I said, let's do this. First, I told everybody we need to get her at least 10 more on her subscription. We need to make sure, because I need to see her get to 500. Because what I don't think you really understand is when you get to 1,000, a lot changes for your channel.
Yes.
A lot changes, and you get a lot of doors that open that allow your channel to become a lot more than it is right now. So let's see, where are you? Good, we got you 11. So whenever you're watching this right now, yep.
Thank you all for subscribing.
So, all right. Everybody have a great day. What she and I are going to do, we're going to stay on the screen for a few minutes and have a good conversation. Thank you for everybody who tuned in. Make sure you share and subscribe this. I mean, like, share, and subscribe. Share this on your Facebook. Share this on your Twitter. I'm always here for anybody who needs to contact me for anything. And stay safe, folks. All right? Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.